Well done, darling. By screwing 17.4 million, you've secured our £300,000 pensions. Yes, we've really screwed the poor people, haven't we? A picture says 1,000 words. Some of you will get it, some of you won't. The first drug deal recorded in history. "5G, 86 bandwidths, ranging from 600 to 4,700 megahertz. Frequency of a microwave oven is 2,450 megahertz. Humanity might want to think about that. They are trying to cook us. Yes, they're at it again. 340 MPs get energy bills paid on expenses. One multi-millionaire Tory claims almost 6,000 to heat second home, while the rest of us have to struggle on the small wages we get. These get over 80 grand a year. Don't have to pay any bills, don't have to pay any rent, don't have to pay a mortgage. No, we pay for that for them, while they just screw us all over. Water bosses, 58 million pay over last 5 years, a national scandal. GMB chief launches campaign to return England 9 water firms to nationwide ownership. Now this is why water costs so much, because you've got to pay this amount of ridiculous money to the CEO. And they get paid such big expenses, such big wages, because they know that they're scamming everyone. Water is free. And you'll go, oh, but it's got to be cleaned, that. But it's not cleaned, is it? If anything, it has shit poured into it, like fluoride. On top of that, they then send you your bill with the bank gyro credit slip on it, which you can return, because it is a cheque. You can return it, paying it off in full. But most don't realise that, so they send it back with another cheque, so they get paid twice for it. That's why they get such big wages. The bosses of England's privatised water companies have been criticised for banking 58 million in pay and benefits over the last 5 years, while customers have been faced with above inflation rises in their water bills. The GMB union said the chief executives of England 9 water and sewage companies were fat cats, earning staggering sums from the management of a natural resource. Tim Ross, GMB's General Secretary, said the pay award to water bosses was a national scandal and launched a campaign to return the industry to public ownership. Household water bills have risen by 40% above inflation since the industry was privatised in 1989. But I thought privatisation would make it get cheaper. That's the lie we were told, according to National Audit Office report. Think torture only happens overseas? Just look at the degrading treatment of disabled people in Britain. We in Britain like to think torture is something that only happens in other places. You know, countries run by thugs who think human life is cheap and regularly prove it. That's just like here then, really, isn't it? Before British ministers rock up to try and sell them weapons, those bleeding hearts at the UN, why don't they focus their attention on the world's rotters? In fact, why don't they try living there? See what that gets them. That's the bovine response you'll usually get from mostly right-wing politicians and commentators when people try to suggest that we've not got quite the paragons of virtue we like to portray ourselves as. And we're not paragons, that is. The UK will, over the next couple of years, face scrutiny over its records of torture and ill treatment at home and abroad before a UN panel in Geneva. A coalition of 80 civil society groups and experts have submitted evidence highlighting failures in both theatres, which have been compiled in reports by Redress. Don't worry, nothing to see here. Police officers illegally hauled Edinburgh woman from her home in nightclothes. A woman who was convicted of assaulting 2 police officers in her own home has been cleared after judges ruled she used reasonable force to protect herself. Rebecca McCallum, 38, struggled with police constables Jill Urquhart and Scott Duggan, who had illegally barged in her front door and grabbed hold of her when she refused to accompany them to a station. More police out of control, same everywhere. Super safe iodide may save millions from heart disease. A common dietary supplement can massively reduce damage to the heart after a heart attack. The effect was seen in mice, but if the same is true for humans, it has the potential to transform treatments for the developed world's biggest killer. Heart attacks generally occur because of a blockage in the arteries that prevents blood from getting into the heart. This can sometimes be fatal, but the worst damage may actually occur after treatment. When the blockage is removed, the sudden rush of oxygen-rich blood overwhelms the cardiac cells and damages the tissue. This can cause death if enough cells are damaged, the heart stops beating. Now it seems that a dose of iodide, a chemical with a long history of safe use in people, might prevent the worst of the damage. John Bolton is trying to steer Trump and the US into another Middle East war. Don't let him. I was surprised to see my commanding general in the conference room that December 2001 day. Almost immediately after 9/11, he had been in Kuwait at Camp Daho, overseeing the logistics of the Afghanistan war efforts alongside my direct commander and a small team of theatre support command. Notice it's theatre support because it's all a game, it's all a stage. Now, a mere 2 months later, he was back. I became even more surprised when he sent more word to finish the operation plan for Central Command, a project we had been developing for honing for several years. But I thought you had no idea 9/11 was coming. This plan was essentially to go to war strategy for the United States against Iraq. Although we were only weeks removed from the World Trade Center and Pentagon attacks by the US-Israeli governments, we knew the anti-US terrorists involved were in Afghanistan. Though you'll find them in Israel and in the US, not Iraq. So why do you go to Iraq then? Yeah. All bullshit, smoke and mirrors and lies. We also knew that 15 of the 90 hijackers were Saudis. I wasn't sure what invading Iraq had to do with our global war on terror. It did not seem to be about national security. After all, Iraq leader Saddam Hussein had been successfully contained for more than a decade. However, I was just an army captain. If our two-star commanding general said that's what we were doing, then that's what we were doing. Should the UK requirement for a television licence be abolished? Now, if you want to see this whole thing, links in description. In the UK, it's compulsory to have a television licence to watch live TV. To watch live TV. Not something you've downloaded. No. It funds the BBC exclusively in lieu of advertising income to the tune of nearly £4 billion a year. So at the very least, the TV licence should be reduced to £10. In fact, it should be abolished if anyone's daft enough to pay it anyway. However, it was created in an era where it was important to stimulate the creation of new content. This model is no longer necessary or viable and has effectively become a tax on all households, regardless of whether one watches the BBC. With new series like Netflix, where a monthly subscription model is in place, the television licence to fund the BBC could similarly be an optional subscription if a household wishes to access BBC content. Well, that would be more fair, because I wouldn't want to watch anything on that shit propaganda channel. Expert study shows vaccinations actually turn your own body's immune system against you. The World Health Organization, who, I hear you say, recently included vaccine skeptics, people who are hesitant to vaccinate themselves or their children because they are concerned about the potential health risks, on their annual list of global health threats, along with serious dangers like superbugs, climate change and Ebola viruses, all controlled by government. HIV and air pollution, government. The WHO claims that vaccine hesitancy increases the risk of a resurgence in disease they claim are fully preventable through vaccinations. Lying bastards. The WHO is by no means alone in its position. Many governments, medical professionals and members of the mainstream media have attacked anti-vaxxers, as they are known, claiming that they are selfish people who put the health of the greater majority at risk. Those pro-vaxxers, groups and individuals like to infer that a question of vaccine is both unscientific, that to question vaccine is both unscientific and dangerous. No, to not question vaccines is not just unscientific, it's extremely dangerous. They've had no tests ever done on them. In fact, that's not quite correct, because they're testing them on us right now. And of course, this is going down this typical line of, oh, vaccines are good for you, vaccines are safe for you, then why have they got the vaccine funds in almost every country? Because of the vaccine damage. That's why. Removing sugar from your diet can starve cancer cells. Cancer rates are on the rise, and there are many factors that cause cancer that range from our environment to our emotions. But food is everything. What you eat is what radiates out. There is a way to cut something out of your diet and make your body thrive. Cancer fuels sugar. Dr. Otto Warburg, along with other health experts, have been talking about how cancer loves sugar since the 1920s. Surprisingly, many doctors don't tell their cancer patients as long as they continue to eat processed foods full of the stuff, they will likely have a more difficult time to fight the disease. The German physiologist, leading biochemist, medical doctor and Nobel laureate, was convinced that you could starve cancer right out of the body. While it may not always be that easy, this is something that could significantly change the game. His theory was that malignant cells and tumour growth were caused by cells that generated energy via adenosine triphosphate, ATP, through a non-oxidative breakdown of glucose, sugar. The recycling of the metabolic form, this process called glycolysis, and the circulation of ADHA back into the body caused anaerobic respiration. This is the reverse of what happens with healthy cells. Healthy non-cancerous cells generate energy for the body to use through the oxidative breakdown of pyrite, the end product of glycolysis, which leads to oxidized mitochondria. He therefore concluded that cancer was really a mitochondrial dysfunction. The normal process of respiration of oxygen in the body is charged to the fermentation of sugar. If you remove the sugar, the body should not develop cancer. The connection between sugar and cancer development is certainly not new. FDA approves faulty dengue vaccine that harmed 100,000 children in the Philippines, killing some and promoted lawsuits. The US Food and Drug Administration, traitors to the American people, just approved one of the most sought-after vaccines in recent decades. It's the world's first vaccine to prevent dengue fever. And it doesn't work, but it will kill you. A disease so painful that its nickname is breakbone fever. The vaccine, called Dengevix, is aiming at helping children in Puerto Rico and the US territories where dengue is a problem. But this vaccine has a dark and deadly history, one that has led to criminal charges in the Philippines and sparked national panic. Vaccines are just a kill weapon. They're part of the depopulation plan. I've said it many times, and it's becoming blatantly obvious. Man gets $75 after being wrongfully imprisoned for 31 years. A Tennessee man who served 31 years in jail for a crime he didn't commit is petitioning the state to compensate him $1 million for the years of his life that were taken away. All he's gotten so far is $75. In October 1977, a Memphis woman who was raped in her home by two intruders. She later identified one of them as her neighbour, Lawrence McKinney, who was 22 at the time. He was convicted of rape and burglary charges in 78 and sentenced to 115 years in jail. DNA evidence cleared him of the charges in 2008, and when he was released in 2009, the Tennessee Department of Corrections gave him a $75 check to restart his life. Because I had no ID, it took me 3 months before I was able to cash it, McKinney told CNN. Now the 61-year-old is asking Tennessee Governor Bill Haslam to exonerate him. The Tennessee Board of Parole, which makes recommendations to the governor, denied McKinney's request by a 7-0 vote at a hearing in September. You see, government, they're just a bunch of wankers. Chemical found in Colgate toothpaste linked to cancer. Another method of killing, you say? Colgate is one of the world's most popular brands of toothpaste in the world, and one of the most widely used ones as well. If you check your medicine cabinet, you probably have one in there as well. Nope. However, according to a recent study, it turns out that Colgate contains dangerous substances called triclosa, which can be overall health detrimental and could even trigger cancer development. The Chemical Research in Toxicology journal recently published a study in which it was revealed that triclosan can boost the proliferation of cancer cells if used in high quantities. Links in that's the whole page there. If you want to pause the video and read it yourself, you can do, but it's just showing you that they try every method they can to poison us and kill us and depopulate us, and yet it's time we turn the tables on them. Scrapping politicians' six-figure pensions would save 350 million, costings show. Taxpayers would save 350 million if the government abolished perks giving retired politicians six-figure pensions for life, new analysis shows. Retired politicians elected prior to 2004 enjoy access to a hugely lucrative pension scheme, which pays well above 100,000 annually for life and or a large lump sum. The rules have since changed, but about 482 politicians and spouses remain on the generous scheme, and almost half of them, 21 MPs retiring in the current election, will also be eligible. The Greens asked the Parliamentary Budget Office to cost their policy of ending access to the pre-2004 scheme and instead giving retired MPs only basic pension like everyone else. Yeah, sounds fair to me. Woman who was wrongly stripped of her pension by DWP had just £5 to her name when she jumped to her death. Joy Worrell, 81. This woman lived through a world war, and because of the bastards in Parliament, she's dead. Had gone through all her savings by the time she took her own life at the Rice Quay Quarry. An elderly woman whose pension was stopped committed suicide by throwing herself into a quarry when she ran out of money. Joy Worrell had just £5 left to her name when she stepped off the side of the Rice Quay Quarry near to her home. The 81-year-old had been left relying on her savings when the Department for Work and Pensions stopped paying her pension. After she had gone through her £5,000 savings and had just £5 remaining in her bank account, she took her own life. Mrs. Worrell had received an inheritance in 2014 and told the DWP about it. But in 2017, her pension situation was reassessed, but instead of only freezing the pension credits, Mrs. Worrell received the DWP froze her ordinary state pension. She was left with no income whatsoever. An inquest into her death heard Mrs. Worrell described as too proud to tell her family about her financial situation. Murdered by the state. Mirror. Sacked. Danny Becker axed in BBC race storm. Banned. Selfish Beck slammed for using mobile at the wheel. Showbiz tragedy. Freddie Starr found dead. Troubled comedy legend 76 claps in Spanish flat. The scum. Archie named after Meg Mogg. The Sun's favourite pet-eating comedian is found dead at 76. Comic famed for greatest headline in the world. Freddie Starr joins his hamster. Metro. Baker chimp tweet shame. BBC 5-star over royal baby joke. Daily Fail. Charles damned over pervert bishop. Misguided prince blasted for backing sadist paedophile. He's the first ever royal to be criticised by public inquiry. Baker fired in baby Archie race. Bullshit crap. The Guardian. New row over deportation flights as 5 men murdered in Jamaica. People deported from the UK are particular targets. Extinction Rebellion founder hails protest case victory. That's a controlled opposition, by the way. Off the road, driving by David Beckham over mobile phone use. Really running out of things to talk about, I guess. Telegraph. Fees for 101 police calls may be scrapped. Ministers say they will review changes as phone firm bows to telegraph campaign. Harry warns wears his pride on his jacket. Veterans prosecutions a priority for Mordaunt. Wait and see how low risk prostate cancer advice. US ninja bomb uses blades and no blast. Playtime is over, school breaks vanish, Windrush backlash warning. Express. Bandit like Beckham, 6-month ban for using mobile. Company legend Freddie Starr dies at 76. Ministers stop OAP selling home to fund care. Yeah, believe that when I see it. New dad Harry, yeah, parasite bastard. Life begins at 60. The rise of young old Camilla Cavendish. Pensioners with younger partners to lose thousands in mean-spirited cuts. Holy Grail for heart attacks. Discover how to mend a broken heart. Medical breakthrough raises hopes of effective treatment for heart attack patients. We are very excited, says cardiologist. 920,000 people in UK have heart failure. Misguided. Prince Charles' support for abuse bishop is criticised in damning report. So he's criticised for his association with a paedophile priest. He was big friends with Dick Jimmy Savile. I think there's a picture going in. I think we all know what it is. Baker out. Presenter sacked over royal baby tweet. Why Theresa May is clinging to power. 1.25 million women left waiting for smear test results. The Times. Wake up to air pollution, doctors tell ministers. Charles had misguided friendship with abuser. No, we know why he was friends with him, because they were both in the same thing, doing the same thing. BBC sack Star. All change again. Trains, something to do with trains. Secret ninja bomb. Row over Tory leaflet. Fears for Guado. Bank hits new low. As if they could go any lower. The lowest of the low. Financial Times. Putin holds to strong line on armed forces. Hong Kong gives China tea giants green light to challenge big banks. Barbados creditors fume at absurd 27 million fee for boutique London firm. Don't waste your money again. Absolutely shit all in the papers. And I just thought I'd pop these couple back on for you, just for something for you to look at.